Hey, welcome back everyone. It is now May 19th of 2021, and ever since the very end of The Mandalorian Season 2's finale by Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni, as well as Peyton, a lot of fans around the world had just been very curious about what Jon and Dave really have in store for the future of Star Wars. This is Mike Zero. Make sure to subscribe if you're new to the channel for future Star Wars content. Now, one exciting aspect about the new Star Wars universe is that we have shows like Kenobi, Ahsoka, and more to come into fruition that's really gonna give us more details on the Force, the Jedi, and everything to do with the worlds between worlds and the netherworld of the Force and more on. Now, when we go ahead and examine what Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau have been up to for the past couple of weeks, is that they have been preparing for this major meeting that is set to take place on May 27th, the end of this month, between themselves and the higher-ups over at Disney, and exactly what that's going to entail. That's going to entail getting Gina Carano back into the Mandalorian series and back on board of the new Star Wars universe with other TV shows out there. So that's another thing to look forward to. So with that being said, of course, what's really intriguing all has to do with Kathleen Kennedy's input on the entire situation between Jon Favreau, Dave Filoni, the Disney higher-ups. We're talking about the board members that are in support of Jon Favreau, or the others that are also in support of Kathleen Kennedy. It's pretty much a divide over at Disney, very similar to the divide over at Lucasfilm. So everything related to Jon Favreau and what he is pushing for, he's trying to get Gina involved with Season 3 and/or 4 of the Mandalorian series, so that really is a big deal. Now, with that being said, of course, what's really intriguing all has to do with what Kathleen Kennedy had to say in response to Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni's plan to getting Gina Carano rehired and Disney negotiating all of this. Of course, now that both Disney and Lucasfilm are currently focused on their new Star Wars shows like Star Wars Kenobi and Ahsoka, it's best described that both Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni are focused on their new Star Wars projects as well that have yet to be announced. However, Jon and Dave are set to have a major meeting with Disney's higher-ups about Gina Carano's return into the Star Wars universe on May 27th. However, Lucasfilm's Kathleen Kennedy is described to be against this idea 100%. In a recent interview with Kathleen Kennedy about the Acolyte TV series, starring, of course, new actresses coming on board, and the one that, of course, is being written by Leslie Headland, Kathleen was questioned about Gina's return into the Star Wars series. Kennedy went on to say that she believes that Gina Carano should not be rehired or brought back into the Star Wars universe, as she views this as a damaging effect if this were to happen. Now, Kennedy goes on to explain that what Gina did was irresponsible on the Twitter platform, and was not a good way to represent Lucasfilm as a company. Further, Kathleen Kennedy went on to explain that there were many members of the cast and crew that also ran into problems with Gina, and it was only creating a toxic environment, and that in her point of view, Gina does not deserve to create more toxicity in the Star Wars environment. Kathleen Kennedy goes on to unveil that she initially had Gina Carano signed up for another TV show that is yet to be announced, and that she had actually decided to take her off that show before The Mandalorian Season 3 plans came into play with Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni. Now, Kennedy makes it clear that this is nothing personal, but only to save the image of our company and what Lucasfilm stands for and how it deals with the Star Wars universe as a whole. So, the fact that Kathleen Kennedy wanted to make it clear that this is not personal towards Gina Carano, I believe is an outright lie. We saw what Kathleen Kennedy did and what Gina Carano actually said in the Ben Shapiro interview, of how there were a lot of people that were basically trying to get her fired for months on end, and that those people were pretty much very close to Kathleen Kennedy. We can see that Kathleen was pulling the strings in the background. Now, granted, Star Wars does have a lot of things going on right now that a lot of fans are looking forward to. We're talking about shows like The Mandalorian Season 3 and 4, as well as other shows out there like the reformed version of Rangers of the New Republic. There really is a lot of aspects being put into play here. The other thing that Kathleen Kennedy made clear that I also disagree with is how she believes that Gina coming back on board of the Star Wars universe would only create more toxicity in the Star Wars environment. We're talking about the sets, right? We're talking about between the cast and the crew. I don't believe that there was any toxic environment involved with Gina Carano. There was no toxicity with the environment when Gina Carano was or should I say when she was hired, you know, some years ago by Jon Favreau. That, I believe, is a complete lie as well. The fact that Gina Carano actually made it clear that people were trying to get her fired, well, that's pretty much in reverse. It was more like when Gina was hired by Lucasfilm, it was more so toxic toward her personally, not necessarily with the actual company and the overall structure of that company. So here's the other thing that I think a lot of fans need to know that's very important as we move forward. Alright, so May 27th, we're just a little over a week out from this major meeting that's supposed to take place between John, Dave, the Disney board members, the Disney CEO Bob Chapek, Kathleen Kennedy will also be involved. This is going to be a big deal. We're going to hear more about this after the meeting takes place in early June. So early June, you're going to be hearing more about that meeting that takes place between John, Dave, Kathleen Kennedy, and the higher-ups over at Lucasfilm. And others, of course, associated with Disney. So here's the thing that's also very shocking to me, is how Kathleen Kennedy also made it clear that Gina Carano was signed up for a TV show prior to even announcing this, and that she also let her go from that before The Mandalorian Season 3 was even being worked on between Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni. This speaks volumes. Alright, this tells us that Kathleen Kennedy really wanted to make it apparent and clear to the fans that she took her off everything. She took Gina Carano off everything related to Lucasfilm and Star Wars. It was not just The Mandalorian Season 3. It was other shows like Rangers of the New Republic, as well as other unannounced shows that were supposed to be announced this fall, that are supposed to be announced. So this really does kind of open one's eyes, right? It really does make us realize exactly as to what's going on with Disney Star Wars and what Jon Favreau is trying to fix here. I believe that Jon Favreau, given that he's a passionate fan, he is really going to try everything in his power at his last breath to really get Gina back on board. We already know that a lot of her deleted scenes from Season 2 of The Mandalorian are going to be making their way into Season 3. And those particular scenes involve both Gina Carano as Cara Dune and Rosario Dawson as Ahsoka Tano. They actually did a couple of scenes together, and that's going to be all implanted into the third season. And so at the very minimum, we will have Gina in those actual episodes of Season 3. My biggest question is, will Gina Carano be compensated for that? You have to be compensated, in my book. You know, that's the way about going, doing things. You have to get compensated if you're associated with a deleted scene like that and being thrown in to, of course, another season of Mandalorian. Obviously, I think that a lot of fans are very much fed up with what's been going on between Disney and Lucasfilm and how Kathleen Kennedy has really, really had a negative impact on the Star Wars universe over the past couple of years. I mean, we've seen this time and time again. Creative differences, multiple firings, and all these different aspects that have been put into play. So, like I've said before in the past, guys, let me know what you think about this entire situation below in the comments. And if you guys did enjoy the content for today, do make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel. I thank you all so very much for the kind support, and I'll catch you guys next time.